Okay, welcome to our Q&A session on generating and managing invoices. It's our first session of 2025, isn't it, Stu?
Yeah, and it's the first one of these that we've done, first Q&A, so it's all new to us as well. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've got some predefined questions. Sean and I put our lab coats on and our safety goggles, and we went through all the data. And because we're both bearded, we were the right people for the job, and we found a list of pre-existing questions that we tend to get with invoices. I think it's the possibly second or third most popular thing we get questions about. Typically, I think we get report writer at the top, and then we get workflows, I would have said, and then it's finance invoice kind of questions. So we just had a look through tickets and dug out sort of some typical questions that we get asked. So we'll go through those until we get some actual questions popping through. If we do, if we don't, we've got a few to cover it, so we should be okay.
About our sort of collective experience, how long do you think that is?
It's about 25 years, something like that. And I think this year will be my 20th.
Yeah, and I make up the 5, so there we go. 25,
okay.
That's like a person. Oh my word.
Yeah.
So yeah, there will be some time left at the end to answer any questions that you submit to us throughout the session. So yeah, please go ahead and log these in the Zoom Q&A as we go.
Okay. Yes, there's only 15 minutes, so I'll jump in.
Let's just crack on.
Yeah.
Cool. So here's a quite popular question here. So can I customize the branding of my invoices? So
I think you'll find you can.
You can indeed.
You can definitely do that.
Because you don't want your invoices to be too busy, the things that you can customize are the logo and also the footer.
Yep. And that will be done through the profile option at the top right, and then administration, then account finance options, and you pop in there, and that's where you set all these options up.
Whereas if you need your logo updating, you should get in touch with the Access Planner support team, and we will change that for you. You just need to send us the actual logo itself, the file, and we can add that to the invoice.
Yep.
Also, in terms of the footer, the things that you can include here are you can have HTML, you can have links, you can use color. So yeah, you've got a lot of rich text options that you can use there. So yeah,
it's typically put the contact us, and I think you put the VAT number, things like that. It's a typical footer of an invoice, really.
Nice one.
Okay, that's that one.
So the next question that we get asked quite a lot is, can I send invoices from the platform in a PDF format? So judging from that screenshot there, what would you say the answer to this was, Stu?
It's a yes, I think.
It is indeed a yes.
Yes, definitely. You can have it as an attachment in a workflow, basically. So there's a tick box that you can see there that says attach invoice as PDF. So you get your finance invoice workflow in place, and you just tick that box, it literally attaches it and sends it as part of the workflow.
So not a lot of you may be sort of familiar with where we are here. We're looking at a workflow, and you've edited the workflow and gone to actions. And this is a workflow action that we can see here. We've got the from address, the to address, the template email. So that's a paying user invoice generated, which is one of our sort of pre-built email templates for workflows. They contain a link to the invoice, but you've got that option at the bottom there for workflows with the invoice module, really handily. And you can attach the invoice as a PDF. So that's really quite handy.
Yeah, that's straightforward. Yes, that one. It's good.
Nice. So the next question. How do I cancel an incorrect payment?
Well, you would need to refund the transaction of the invoice. So the invoice itself, when you go in to edit the invoice, you get these options that you can see, hopefully on the screenshot down the side. And transactions has its own data grid. So you can literally find the transaction in question, the payment, right click it, and as you can see the little context menu there, the refund. So you can hit that button and you get another little prompt. I'm not sure if we got that on the screenshot.
Have that on the next slide.
Perfect. So you can enter the amount to be refunded. You can create a corresponding credit note, and you can even at the top there, you can select a specific invoice item. So if it was one particular delegate or one particular item, you can select it so that your refund makes more sense. You can type the amount in. If you tick the create a credit note, it will balance out. In other words, nothing will be owed on the invoice.
So in this context that it's an incorrect payment, you would not want to raise a credit note there. So effectively the invoice would go from being completed to then outstanding again,
Yeah,
which is what you want because it's an incorrect payment.
Yeah, whereas ticking the box would just create a credit note which would just settle the amount. It can be used in certain situations, but if it's a refund, typically you're still expecting the payment. Basically, if you're still expecting the payment, don't create a credit. If you're not expecting the payment and writing it off, tick the option and it will level off what's owed.
Nice one. So now we have a section here for any questions that you guys have submitted throughout. Currently, there are no questions been submitted yet.
We're obviously answering everything that's needed to be answered. Yeah. That's good to know.
So yeah, we can just wait for a few there.
Yeah.
Okay, so as there's no further questions there, we're going to move on to the next sort of common question that we get asked.
Yeah.
Someone here is asking, can I edit invoices?
Controversial. Basically, when the invoice is temporary, you can. In other words, before it gets committed, before it gets an invoice number. So when you use the invoice generator or the mini generator, it puts all the details together, and before it's committed, you can then adjust the amounts, you can remove items, you can delete things like discounts off it, you can manipulate it a little bit, but then once you right click and submit it or commit it rather, then it's kind of locked down. The only thing I think you can modify then is the purchase order number.
Yeah, I think it's PO.
Yeah, once it's been locked down. So you can and you can't basically on that one.
Nice one. So in the same sort of style as this one, is it possible to delete invoices? So yeah, it's the same kind of logic there. Only temporary invoices should be deleted. So I was going through this the other day with somebody. So you can have the invoice generator. You can put in a load of criteria there, like a generate invoices between these course start dates for any account, that sort of thing. So you'll say it will generate for however many items. It will create a load of temporary invoices. You can check each of those has been raised correctly. If there's some items in there that you didn't mean to raise, you can right-click, delete those, so long as they're still in the status of temporary. So anything you don't delete, you would then go on to right-click, commit.
It tends to be when you generate a batch. Let's say you wanted to do them by the course start date, and you actually wanted to do them by a booking date, and you selected the wrong criteria. So you generate this batch of temporary invoices, like Sean said, and because they're not committed, you can say, I generated them wrong, so I will bulk delete them and then generate them with better criteria so they meet what I need. Then once committed, then they're not deletable, basically.
I think, however, it is possible to delete outstanding invoices, but we don't tend to sort of encourage this because you would avoid losing an audit trail. Sometimes you may find that an outstanding invoice has been committed, and it's there and it's raised, it's committed, it's incorrect. It was a mistake. Human error happens, and you can delete those outstanding invoices, but as I say, you lose the audit trail completely.
Absolutely. So. And I would always say, if in doubt, raise a ticket, put a support ticket through, because it's a lot easier to get something back if you haven't got rid of it in the first place. So if you are in doubt, just pop a ticket through to support portal and just say, this is the situation, this is what I could do with removing or losing, or I've generated this wrong, and we'll help you through it. Have a Teams call or a call with you and just talk you through it. So again, if in doubt, just pop a support ticket through.
Nice one. Okay, the next question. What is the easiest way to find an invoice? Now, this does depend on the reason you're looking for the invoice and the information you've got available to you. So if you know that a customer has been invoiced, you can find all of those invoices by going to the accounts data grid, right-clicking on the account and selecting invoices. It'll take you to sort of a mini data grid that is pre-filtered for invoices mapped to that account, or invoices that have been raised and targeted to that account. And the same applies to delegates as well, and to users. As I say, if you wish to if you wish to find an invoice mapped to a particular delegate, you can go to Smart Grids Class Delegates, find Sam Smith there, and right-click, and you get the same options there, and you can go straight to invoices.
Yeah, it all depends what information you've got. If you know the company, the account, go to the account and then go to invoices, and then you get straight to the invoice, like Sean says. Whereas if you've got the user's name, find the user, go to invoices, or just go to the invoices data grid and you've got a list and you can sort it by date generated. You can sort it by the actual invoice reference.
So if you have the reference, you can go straight to the data grid and type that reference in. And then it'll show you it if it exists.
Yeah, it's quite a few ways of doing it.
Nice one. Let's keep an eye on the Q&A there. We haven't got any questions submitted yet.
We're definitely hitting the mark with our questions that we found. Absolutely.
Nice. So the next question, can I rename invoices on my Access Planet platform? Yeah, this is pretty common. We get people wanting to give different names to invoices, like orders or
sales orders,
sales confirmation or something.
Yeah, it's again, especially if you're invoicing from those systems such as like Sage, Xero, Aggresso, QuickBooks, that then they have very specific names that they use. So we can predefine what the names are.
But just note that they will still be referred to as invoices in Access Planet documentation. So just remember, if you've got finance orders, you need to be looking on our sort of knowledge base for invoices.
For invoices, yeah, absolutely. And the same goes with reporting and things like that. They'll still keep their original name behind the scenes. So yeah, it's just something to bear in mind.
Nice one. The next question, can I integrate my Access Planet invoices into my central accounting system? We've got multiple integrations options available. Stu, do you want to go?
Yeah, we've got the integration with the API. We've currently got the version 1 of the API, but there's a version 2 of the API coming soon.
Exciting times.
Yeah, which is going to give you a lot better option to plug it into various things. So that's basically using the API is a very, very custom method, which is up to the developer what they hook into. We've got things like exporting information from reports, and that can be pulled into another financial system. And we've also got a bit of middleware that we work alongside with called Zinc, where that pulls the information out of Access Planet and then pushes it into, I think it's either Sage or Xero, things like that. So yeah, there's the direct method, there's the middleware method as well. So it is possible. Again, it's always worth putting a ticket in or raising something with your CSM to ask what, and let us know what systems you've got, and we'll tell you what the integrations options are.
Nice one. Just keeping an eye on the Q&A.
Yeah.
We haven't got any questions submitted yet.
So
that's all good.
Still hitting the mark with everything. Yeah, nothing to come up. If it comes up, we should spot it anyway. So we can always interrupt our questions with it.
So in the next question, we're asking, how can I see a full transaction history in my platform? So yeah, you can find this either on a dashboard or on Report Engine. So you can add a data grid gadget, select the module for transactions, and select the columns that you want to display in the dashboard gadget or the report. So in this example, we're showing the date of the transaction ID, the invoice reference, linking it back to the same invoice. That's quite handy. The payee full name, the amount of the transaction, currency code, status, and tax. You can also apply any filters. So if you've got multiple training providers, you've got different invoice prefixes, you could hide those. If you wanted to hide any refunds from that, so we've got that status there. If it's a refund, you can hide those from view. So yeah, there's lots of different options you can have.
And you can even filter it on, ones this week, this month, this year, this quarter, things like that. And again, Report Engine is very similar to dashboards in the way that things are put together. It's just one is the dashboard is a landing page. So you could have a very specific landing page with this kind of information on it, or you could run a report with, if you just want this tucked away and you want it home screen.
Nice. Yeah. I think I've said nice one about 6 times.
I'm keeping count.
I need to sort of have a different.
You need a selection of different phrases.
Okay, cool. Let's go. Can an invoice be split so it is paid by 2 different people?
No, invoices cannot be split, but you can process partial payments. So yeah, it's not an option. It does come up from time to time. And it is something that you are welcome to put a product suggestion in for if you think it's something that you're going to need, but because we always take those into consideration, not that we definitely commit to creating them, but as it stands, no, the only option is you can sort of, if you've got 1,000 outstanding, you enable partial payments and you allow people to put an initial payment of say 120, and then they can go into the portal and pay subsequent payments over and over. So yeah, that's the only real close option to that.
Question. Can I generate a pro forma invoice?
No, that's something that does come up from time to time. Now, we talked earlier about renaming your invoices, and I think some people, or one or two customers in the past, have renamed them to that. A little bit misleading. Technically, we don't support it, and I say we have been asked for it, but technically, no, it's not an area that we have. It's just invoices and credits. We don't have pro forma invoices.
So how can I see a full payment history for an invoice? This is quite an easy one. So if you go to the invoices data grid, you right click to view an invoice, you can scroll down to the transactions tab. So clicking that will bring up a list of transactions. You can see all the payments that have been made on that invoice.
Yeah, this is the part we touched on earlier with the refunds. It's the same area. Every single transaction method is listed down the middle there. You've got card, credit note. And again, this would be, if you were refunding specific ones, this is where you would do it from. But this is a full transaction history of each invoice.
Yeah, before we were looking at sort of all transactions platform wide, whereas this is sort of every invoice will have its own sort of tailored transactions pre-filtered data grid there. So
exactly. Yeah, so it's all about knowing the invoice first, then going to the transactions.
Moving on, can I change the invoice terms on my invoices per customer? Yeah, this is something that super admins can do.
Yeah.
So if you go to administration options, account finance options, and the options tab along the top, search for the customer and select them.
Yeah,
what we're doing here.
It's a little bit tucked away. I find that if you hit the little green arrow, it then populates, so it looks blank to begin with. Again, it's only for super admins, but when you first hit that green arrow, it then populates the list below it. So it is quite buried, but yeah, it's absolutely doable.
So yeah, you can use invoice term and invoice term type to override the standard terms for this customer. So this is overwriting what you've already got on account finance options. So yeah, per customer, you can set your invoice terms, which is really handy.
Yeah, you've got those good payers and bad payers. You can set specifics for each one. You can even lock down there with if the purchase order number is mandatory or not when invoices are created. Nice. I think that is all the questions that we've got that we've routed out from tickets. And we left another one of these windows just in case there was any other questions come through. But again, because we've answered everything so well, nothing's been submitted. So I think we did a very good job with that. So
if we do say so ourselves.
Yeah, we must have done, you know. I think a lot of people had a lot of questions there and they were just like, I was going to ask that. I didn't need to. So excellent. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just leave a few more seconds there if anyone wants to get a last minute question in.
Yeah.
Any question relating to invoices?
At all on Access Planet. We are not financial experts. Well, I'm not.
I certainly aren't. I aren't. No,
yeah.
I am not. I'm not a grammatical expert.
He's not good at English.
Yeah.
Right. Scissors. Rock, paper, scissors.
Hey.
We could be here all day with this. Yeah. I went too fast as well. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to cover on that. I think there's some pretty good questions, and they're the typical questions we get asked most days, most weeks certainly. So hopefully that gives you some idea of the kind of things you can do.
Well, thank you very much for joining, guys. We're going to end the session there. If there are no more questions, we can just wrap up. Nice one. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to join the session. We hope that you found it helpful.
Yeah, and again, it was our first Q&A style as well. So obviously, feedback always welcome. And see if there's any way we can change it, improve it, make it better at all. Let us know.